So once upon a time, environmentalists cared about pollution. Now they just care about climate change and stupidity. I mean, literally, like most of the environmentalists out there, you care about dumb stuff. You want people wearing paper shoes and going to the bathroom in chemical toilets in front of their homes. You don't really care about fighting pollution, which was the original mission of the Environmental Protection Agency. The Environmental Protection Agency, not the Planetary Protection Agency, the Environmental Protection Agency. And so back once upon a time, a lot of people don't remember this, there used to be pollution, right? Like rivers would catch on fire. And the iron-eyed Cody would be riding on the horse crying because beer cans were in a stream back in the 1970s PSAs. And there were these things called Superfund cleanup sites. They were infamous. Love Canal, Times Beach. Well, there's another one that needs to be cleaned up called the Westlake Landfill, and that is in a quarry just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. So what happens with an EPA Superfund site is this. A place gets designated an EPA Superfund site. The EPA is able to take federal dollars and come in and abate these horrible disasters. The problem is the EPA, like every other bureaucracy from the Veterans Administration on down, does very poor jobs when it comes to managing this stuff because they'd really rather be telling you how to manage your land and how to fight climate change. They don't want to do the heavy lifting of actually decontaminating polluted locations. Like I mentioned, you had Love Canal, you had Times Beach, now you've got the Westlake Landfill in St. Louis. Well, here's what happened at the Westlake Landfill. Back once upon a time, somebody did some illegal dumping of radioactive waste from the Manhattan Project. Yeah, it's that bad. And now there's a fight over whether or not we're going to clean up this site. Now, you know, Pruitt is no longer running the show. Wheeler is now running the show at the Environmental Protection Agency. And these environmentalists are being the troublemakers that they usually are. That's why I'm happy to welcome into the program Travis Korson. He is with Madison Strategies, and he joins us now to talk about this. Travis, welcome to the program. What are these wackos up to?
Well, you covered it great. There is a site just outside of St. Louis called the Westlake Landfill. It was actually designated a Superfund site back in 1990, so it's taken the EPA 28 years to finally come to a conclusion on how they want to clean it up. They actually had a plan as far back as 2008 to cap the waste in place, to keep it there. It was going to be totally safe. It was very deep. But that wasn't good enough for the radical environmentalists that were protesting this site. For some reason, they instead started to push for a full excavation plan of the site, which would pose greater environmental risks to the surrounding community and would fly in the face of the opposition that they've had to previous nuclear waste remediation projects such as Yucca Mountain. So they're contradicting themselves here, and some of the reasons why are really interesting.
Yeah, so give us a couple of the reasons. What's going on?
Sure. So the excavation plan itself would pose much more risk to the surrounding community environment. EPA study found that cancer would be a 5-time greater risk to the surrounding community if they excavate versus the cap-in-place plan, which is the original plan. And there would be a 54 times greater risk of a transportation accident. One of the main ways that this would be done is by freight rail. And since '97, risks on freight rail transportation have actually been going up. Every 90 minutes, there is a collision or a derailment. And every 2 weeks, there's a hazardous materials derailment on freight rail. So clearly, there are greater transportation risks versus capping in place, yet these environmentalists continue to push for this full excavation plan. The reason why is that...
Hold on a minute. Wait, hold on. So I want to understand this because I'm kind of a basic guy. So they're going to dig up all the dirty dirt, all the radioactive dirt and ick, and they're going to put it onto trains, and they're going to take it someplace else and dump it and bury it someplace else when they can just dump a bunch of concrete or rebar or whatever they put on it right where it is and it's fixed. This is so great. Continue, please.
Yeah, and the waste itself is buried far enough underground where it is that with the EPA capping plan, it would be perfectly safe in place. But basically, yeah, they want to dig it up to dump it somewhere else again. On top of the transportation risks that I mentioned on freight rail, there are also some serious terrorist risks. Both ISIS and AQAP, who's Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, last summer put out a call to their followers to derail trains. AQAP went as far as actually putting instructions for derailment machine in their magazine. There was a study from the Manitoba Transportation Institute that found that 42% of all derailment attempts were successful. And there are some states, New Jersey being one, where they're actually, they want freight rail operators to now post online for the public their contents, how much of they are on it, and where the trains are going. Basically, what one official working on the issue told would be a gift to ISIS as far as finding the material. So not only do you have transportation risks, you have some serious terrorist risks as well.
Okay, this is terrible. Now, look, St. Louis, broadly speaking, is they have a lot of economic challenges there. Has anybody weighed in from the community when it comes to wanting to cap this and get this resolved after 28 plus years? What are we? I mean, do the locals in St. Louis have any takes on this? Are people concerned that this just remains unhandled all these years later? This is crazy.
Yeah, so there's one group that has been holding up progress on the site by pushing for this full excavation called Just Moms STL. They're kind of one of those radical environmental groups. They pose as a group of moms from the surrounding community who are concerned about health and wellness in the community. But when you dig a little deeper, you find that there are some close ties with organized labor and the Teamsters. Now, who would stand to benefit from full excavation versus capping? The Teamsters would actually be the ones that would handle the full excavation. And it would go from this capping project, which would be paid for not with federal, but with private funds, to this full excavation project, which would cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars and would basically be a handout to a big labor contract.
Wow. This is absurd. Here we go. It always comes down to the money. All right, Travis Korson, great stuff here regarding the shenanigans being played by the environmentalist lobby and big labor and all that sort of stuff. Where do people get more information on this and what you're up to over there?
Sure. You can find more information at frontiersoffreedom.org, ff.org. What I will also tell your viewers is Acting Administrator Wheeler is reviewing the project. He has until September 30th to make a final decision, and he could actually decide to not do this excavation project and go back to the original capping plan. So I'd encourage your viewers, if they have a way to get in touch with their EPA officials or with Secretary Wheeler, to call on him and to go back to the original plan that Pruitt changed his mind on when he first came in as administrator.
Unbelievable. All right, great stuff. Travis Korson, keep us up to date on this. Obviously, we're going to be moving towards the deadline here within just a few weeks, and we want to hear what's going to end up happening here. That's Travis Korson. Look, there you go, right? I mean, that's it. This is equivalent. I don't even know what this is equivalent to. This is so dumb. So you've got the stuff in place and it's buried, and they can just put like a layer on top of it, right? Like a thing of cement, and it's locked down and it's in there now. But instead, we're going to take trucks and workers and excavators and dig up a bunch of radioactive dust and dirt, load it onto the trucks. It's going to all blow in the air, or it's going to go onto the rail. It's all going to blow in the air. It's going to be all this kind of stuff, and it's going to pollute everything else around it. You're going to be driving down the road getting a radioactive bath as your car's getting pelted, or they're going to be on a train and Al Qaeda's going to blow it up. Sometimes the easy fix is the smart fix. I don't remember the Russians digging up Chernobyl and putting it somewhere else. They just kind of put a coffin on it. This is crazy. Government is the problem. 877 Newsmax. Get you an update, then plenty more straight ahead. It is the Brett Winterble Show, Newsmax TV, back right after this.